in this exercise, what we're going to learn is how to configure the SAN storage. And let's once again refer to the network diagram. So we're going to configure this part, that's the SAN storage. And what I've done is I've taken a Windows Server 2016 computer, and we're going to use a Windows Server 2016 computer as a SAN storage. So I've already given an IP address to this computer, and I've changed the name of the computer as SAN. And what we're going to configure is an iSCSI SAN storage. And once we configure the SAN storage, in fact on this SAN storage we're going to create 2 drives that we're going to need for failover cluster. So once we configure the SAN storage, and then we're going to ensure that our nodes, that is node 1 and node 2, can both access the SAN storage, because that's what we need for the failover cluster to work correctly. So let's go through the steps. So as you can see, I'm on the SAN storage computer, and I can see the name has been changed, and also the IP address has been correctly assigned. Let me also show you, just in case you might have missed this step, what you need to do is you need to go into settings. You need to go into settings of this computer and click on network adapter and ensure that you're connected to the SAN virtual switch that we configured in an earlier exercise. So I've verified that, and the next step would be to go into the dashboard, and I will click on add roles and features. Leave it as role or feature based installation, and ensure that your correct computer is selected. And from the list of roles that you see here, you are going to select this one which says iSCSI target server. So I'm going to select the iSCSI target server, select add features if any features are required. So once I install iSCSI target server, my server gets the capability to act as a SAN storage. So I'm selecting this, I'm clicking on next, and I click on install, on close. And in order to configure the SAN storage, what I need to do is, on this page itself, on the server manager dashboard itself, I will click on file and storage services, and I will go into iSCSI, and this is where I can provision an iSCSI virtual disk on the SAN storage. So I'm going to click on this link which says to create an iSCSI virtual disk. So I'm going to click on this. So on this page, it shows me the computer that I'm referring to. It shows me the location where it's going to provision storage for me. I'll leave it default. I don't want to make any changes to this. And let me give a name to the first disk that we're going to create. The first disk that we're going to create is a data disk, and that is going to be used by the application on the cluster. So maybe we're going to configure a file server cluster. Maybe we're going to configure an SQL cluster. So this is the disk that is going to be used by the application. So I will click on next to this. Let me give a space, let me give a 10 GB space for this disk, and leave it as dynamically expanding. That's better for me in this lab exercise. And I will click on next to this. And then it gives you a message. It says, are you creating a new iSCSI target? Now the iSCSI target refers to this computer itself. So this computer itself, the SAN storage, is known as the iSCSI target. So let me go back to the network diagram that we have out here. So as mentioned, the iSCSI target is the SAN storage. The SAN storage is known as the iSCSI target, and the nodes, that is node 1 and node 2, are known as iSCSI initiators, right? So let me close this back. And are we defining a new iSCSI target, meaning are we defining a new SAN storage? Yes, we are defining a new SAN storage. So I will click on next, and let me simply give the name as SAN storage. Nothing creative. So I'll click on next, and then it says, okay, you are defining the SAN storage, but who are those servers that are going to connect to the SAN storage? who are those iSCSI initiators as I mentioned. So iSCSI initiators who are going to connect to the SAN storage. It's going to be node 1 and node 2, and we can see the IP addresses of both of them, 10.0.0.10 and the 20. So I need to ensure that I mention these two IP addresses to the SAN storage, or else it would not allow me to make a connection, right? So now I click on add, and from here either I can mention the name of the computer, or in my case I'm going to mention the IP address. So one of them is 10.0.0.10 and the other one is 10.0.0.20. So these are the IP addresses that I'm using on both the nodes, node 1 and node 2, and in this case they are known as the iSCSI initiators. And once I've done that, I click on next. Do I need any kind of authentication between the nodes and the SAN storage? No, I don't need it because this is just a test lab environment. So I click on next and click on create. Now this is my first disk that's been created. I need to create another disk that's known as a witness. Now I'm going to tell you later why the witness is required, but at this moment our focus is on how to connect my nodes to the SAN storage and also how to configure a SAN storage. So let me add the second drive out here. So I'm going to right click over here and I'm going to say new iSCSI virtual disk, and let me click. Oh, where's the wizard gone? Here it is. So let me click on next to this once again, and this time this is going to be something known as my witness disk. The witness disk size is what Microsoft recommends to be somewhere around 512 MB, but to be on the safer side I leave it as 1 GB. And I will click on next, and then it says, okay, what's the name of your target, meaning what's the name of your SAN storage? Is that correct? Yes, this is the name of a SAN storage. And are these two nodes the exact nodes who are going to access the SAN storage? Let me check the IP address. Yes, they are. So I do not need to define the target again. That's just a one-time process. So I will click on next to this and click on create, and here is my second disk that's been created. So I've completed this step of configuring a SAN storage and provisioning storage on the SAN, right? And my next step obviously is going to be this one. So let me go back. So my next step is going to be ensuring that these two nodes, that is node 1 and node 2, can access the SAN storage. So let me go to one of the nodes. So let me pick up node 2 and I will try to log into node 2. Now please ensure when you configure failover cluster, ensure that you're logging onto the domain always. Oh, password incorrect. Let me try once again. Yeah, we're logged in. Right. Now how do we ensure that this node can access the SAN storage? So for this we would go into server manager, and on the server manager window we are going to click on tools, and here we have an option called iSCSI initiator. If you remember, node 1 and node 2 were the initiators. So I'm going to click on iSCSI initiator. It prompts me saying that the iSCSI service is not running. Do you want to run the service? Yes, I do want to run the service. And then it prompts me for the target name. The target name is going to be, or the IP into the SAN storage. So let me give the IP address of the SAN storage, which if I refer to my lab exercise here or the lab diagram here, it is 10.0.0.100. So let me give that IP address here, and I will click on Quick Connect, and there it shows me that it's detected my SAN storage and it's got connected to it. Click on Done, and once again I click on OK, and I will now get into disk management, and let me see if my node has detected the drives on the SAN storage. And I can see the same drives that was seen earlier on node 2, and I can see both the drives, the one which is the 10 GB disk and the other one is the 1 GB disk. So 10 and 1 both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this drive, bring it online, and right click this drive, again bring it online. And if you notice here, since the drives have already been formatted in the earlier instance, I don't need to format it again, and now this is where both my nodes can see the drives of the SAN storage. And this completes the practical on configuring the SAN storage and ensuring that both the nodes can access and see the drives on the SAN storage.